So right now we are on the explained page of Indian Express newspaper. So there are two important articles on this page: why Thailand slammed India's farm subsidy at the WTO, and a grey zone warfare. So we will read both of these article for the communication improvement challenge. So this article is coming amid the ongoing farm protest that is demanding more subsidies for the farmers, and but Thailand has slammed India's farm subsidy that is already which is already given by India. So this article is a bit of dilemma. So let's read that article. So Thailand has replaced its ambassador to the WTO, World Trade Organization, after New Delhi's protest. New Delhi protested her comments on India's public stockholding program. So what is that name? Pim Chanok Wong Koran Pitfield has targeted India's rice procurement program. She said that its public distribution system, under which the government procures essential food items from producers and sells them to the public at low rates, is not for the people but for the capturing of the export market. PTI cited a senior government official as stating that the language and behavior of the Thai ambassador were not in good taste. After India, Thailand is the second largest rice exporter in the world. So this is an important thing to note down, that India is the largest exporter of rice and Thailand is the second largest exporter. However, India has put temporary restrictions on rice exports to arrest domestic prices. So, what are Thailand's concerns? Thailand is a member of the G20 nation Keynes Group, which has time and again questioned India's PSH program at WTO. What is that? Public Stockholding Program at WTO. It has argued that the program is highly subsidized and India's farm support is distorting global food prices and hurting the food security of other countries. Trade distortion is a situation where prices and production are higher or lower than levels that would usually exist in a competitive market. According to the WTO, nearly all domestic support measures are considered to distort such trade, but they are permitted to a certain limit called the de minimis limit. Okay. So, under the provisions of the WTO's Agreement on Agriculture, the aggregate value of the product specific support should not exceed 5% of the total value of the production of the agricultural product in question. In the case of developing countries such as India, the de minimis ceiling is 10%. So, India has breached this de minimis limit in the case of rice. This has angered other exporters such as Thailand, as they are finding it difficult to compete with Indian rice and losing the global export market share to India. So this kind of a problem has also been arised with the Brazil, as they are the uh, competitor to India in the case of sugar export. So they have dragged India into the WTO for the sugar export. So Brazil is focusing on their own concern. So the CANS group comprises Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Indonesia, Malaysia, New Zealand, Pakistan, Paraguay. Pakistan is also there, okay. Paraguay, Peru, Philippines, South Africa, Thailand, Ukraine, Uruguay, and Vietnam. It has been lobbying for agricultural trade liberalization. Trade experts say that the grouping is trying to get India to dismantle or reduce the scope of minimum support price scheme. Through the scheme, the government gives an assured price to farmers for certain major crops to ensure price stability and secure farmers' income. So, why are India's rice subsidies being questioned? The WTO norms say that the support given should be within the 10% de minimis limit. India informed the WTO that the value of its rice production in 2019-20 was $46 billion, while it gave subsidy worth $6.31 billion or 13.7% as against the permitted 10%. However, India has questioned the way subsidies are calculated at the WTO, saying the calculations is done at a fixed and outdated 1986-88 price, which overestimate the subsidy. India is seeking to change this at the WTO negotiations on agriculture. What is India's argument and demand at the WTO? The Keynes Group is also attacking the peace clause triggered after India breached the de minimis limit. The interim peace clause was put in in place in 2013 under the Bali Agreement to protect developing countries from being challenged for breach of subsidy levels. However, it comes with onerous condition including a host of notification requirement making it difficult to use. Therefore, India and a group of developing nations are seeking a permanent solution for the public stockholding of food grains for food grains. This will give India better flexibility in providing farm support. India has been arguing that the subsidy that it provides is far less than what the US and EU give. The Indian government subsidy to farmers comes in at $300 per farmer, compared with $40,000 per farmer in the US. However, the recent conference, the 13th ministerial conference of WTO, ended without any decision on a permanent solution for this public stockholding of food. So let's see what is coming. Then this is a news in transition, obviously. So another important article that is on the similar page is gray zone warfare. So this term was recently used by the Chief of Defense Staff Anil Chauhan at the Raisina dialogue. So let's see what it talks about. So on the last day of the 2024 Raisina dialogue, on Feb 24, India's Chief of Defense Staff General Anil Chauhan said grey zone warfare was the latest in informal warfare. During the discussion titled The New Wars, Policies, Practices and Preparation, he gave an example of the situation in the South China Sea, where several countries have extended competing territorial claims and where occasional confrontations involving small boats have been reported. In commentaries on China and Taiwan too, the term crops up in the descriptions of Chinese action around the island that it claims as its own. So, what is gray zone warfare? Zone warfare generally means a middle space between the black and white of direct conflict and peace. A blog from the think tank Atlantic Council quotes Clementine G. Starling, a resident fellow in the Transatlantic Security Initiative, as saying, a multitude of activities fall into this murky in between, from nefarious economic activities, influence operations, and cyber attack to mercenaries operation, assassinations, and disinformation campaign. Other experts includes Other experts include economic actions too, such as debt trap and economic sanctions. Tactics of gray zone warfare became more popular during the Cold War, the phase of the intense US USSR rivalry for ideological and economic dominance after the Second World War in 1945. Since both powers were nuclear armed, direct conflict could not be risked. So, experts told the think tank that such methods can also be employed by parties who have not had access to massive resources or power traditionally. Such tactics thus can help them gain an advantage over a technically superior adversary more used to conventional warfare. So, what can it look like? Experts from the US and Europe have characterized certain Russian and Chinese action of late as examples of gray zone warfare. This includes the Chinese military's presence in the South China Sea. The Philippines is one of the countries which has challenged China's territorial claims, extending to over 80% of the region. In December 2023, it termed the presence of more than 135 Chinese maritime militia vessels near a disputed reef as illegal. It accused China of firing water cannons at its boats and ramming into others, while the Chinese Coast Guard blamed the Philippines for hitting Chinese boats. Another example can be found in a recent Reuters report, which said Taiwan has complained for 4 years of stepped up Chinese military action, such as fighters regularly flying over the strait as a part of a gray zone strategy to wear down Taiwan with activities that stop short of a full blown conflict. In a paper from the Foreign Policy Research Institute Pacific Forum titled The Gray Zone Issue Implications for US China Relations, a researcher argued that the US has also engaged in similar tactics. These includes its economic sanctions against China and imposition of duties on Chinese imports to the US along with maritime reco- reconnaissance. So, what risk does it pose? A country could be indulging in grey zone warfare only as bet, getting its rival to react in a way that then legitimize military reprisal from its side. So, this is also a news in transition. We'll see it later.